Hello everyone, this is James Shore with another test-driven development video. I'm recording this on March 28th, 2012, and before we begin, I'd like to remind everybody about the training course that I'm putting on in New York in the last week of April, from April 23rd to the 27th. This is a week-long Agile boot camp. Covers every aspect of Agile from planning to delivery. It's suitable for programmers, project managers, everybody who's involved in Agile, and it is a very hands-on course. I guarantee if you go to this course, you will see things that you haven't seen before with regards to Agile. It's also a course that attendees have always given very high ratings. So if you're on the East Coast, this is the first time we've offered it on the East Coast, and you won't be disappointed. So I hope you can come. And thanks for listening. So I'm going to pick up where I left off in the last episode, which was working on our save as dialog. We have our tests. If I can get those to run. Yep, here we go, spinning up. All right, we have our tests checking that when we do a save of something that's going to throw an exception, that we don't get an exception in this method. So that's great. But now we need to make this code actually assert that we're getting a dialog box. And that's going to be a little bit trickier. What we need to do here is solve this in the same way that we solved it here, where we said the save as menu should show the save as dialog. Now, honestly, I don't remember how that worked. So let's just go ahead and copy that out. I think that same pattern is one we can use again. I also noticed that this class is getting a little bit large. We've got all the dialogues in here and so forth. I think there's an opportunity to shrink it down, split it into multiple classes, but I don't want to do that just yet. So let's start here. I think we're going to need to clean this up, but let's start here. We're going to want to say that the dialog comes up. Now, the way we approach that with a file dialog is, I believe, we define it in advance, and then we create it when we're adding the components. Yeah. I'm not sure that that's going to work when we're doing JOption. No, that doesn't seem to quite work because the JOption pane is going to show us a dialog. When we call JOption pane.show message dialog, I presume that that is going to create a new object. Right now, when we're getting that save as dialog, we're asking it, Well, let's experiment with this a little bit. So first of all, we're doing the invoke later because we want it to run asynchronously. And I think that's appropriate here. I wonder though, I'm just trying to figure this out. What happens when we run this? It happens very quickly. That's what happens when we run it. Yeah, the save as dialog does show up. Now, as I recall, the problem with the save as dialog was that we weren't able to actually click any of the buttons on the window. We didn't have any handles into those buttons. And we'll have the same problem with this dialog, but I'm guessing we can just kill it. I'm still not certain that we're testing this Swing UI stuff the best way we can, but let's try to do something similar. Okay, so what we have here is, and we are gonna, let's start putting some comments around this. We're gonna have to clean this up, but we're setting, so first off, let's clean up this method because it's all really big and complicated. But first we're setting up our mock model to throw exception on save. And then we're setting up our frame to throw the exception on save. And then we are make the save happen, which will throw an exception. There's the do save. And here we want this to be the invoke later. Yeah, and we're going to follow that same pattern again. Yeah, that's all good. And then we want to assert that the error dialog is visible and has correct error message. And that part's still to be done. All right, so the main thing we've, other than adding the comments, all I've done here is modified the do save to put it inside of invoke later. Okay. I'm not 100% sure that that will work if I'm actually showing this, because this code is in fact a blocking, it's a modal dialog. So I'm not sure what will happen. It seems to be working. Is it actually showing up? Let's see, is there a convenient way for me to just run this one test? Okay. So that is running. I can't tell if it's doing anything. And I suppose that's all right. Now, if I actually run the application, it's working for real, as usual, especially in UI stuff. I'm spending more time trying to figure out how to test it than on actually figuring out how to write it. But I still feel like the time is worthwhile because this makes it safe for me to save. Generally, I find that the break-even point for TDD, the point at which it saves you more time than it costs, is about 6 weeks into the project, which for this project, since we've only been coding for just over 1 week of full-time work, that's we still haven't hit that. So we're spending a lot of time figuring out the basics. But once we have those patterns in place and we can rely on them in our code, we spend more and more time writing functionality, less time figuring out tests, and the body of tests that we have starts paying off. So, and because our application's bigger, we're doing more refactoring, we're relying on the tests, starts catching bugs, and it's now faster to work on the code with the tests than it is to work on the code without the tests. So it does pay off. It just doesn't happen right away. Again, my experience on a new code base is it happens sometime in the second month. And we'll never see that in the screencast because that would be years and years of work with the 15-minute episodes we're doing. But that's all right. We'll just keep on plugging away. Okay, so So I'm going to take this. I did take it back out. Good. So I'm going to use this lovely little assert eventually true that we've got. Oops. Wow. That didn't work. Okay, and we want to say that our warning dialog should be visible. We'll wait 1,000 milliseconds. And let's assert that the warning dialog is visible. And I think what I want to do here is I want to say that our dialog is not null and is visible. And the reason for that will become apparent in a moment. What I'm thinking is since we are instantiating a new dialog every single time because we're using message dialog, at least that's what I think it does. Because we're doing that, yeah, that doesn't return a dialog. Because we're instantiating a new dialog every single time, rather than getting it from, what we're gonna have to do is basically search for it every time, like this. I have no idea if this is going to work. No idea whatsoever. Let's try it. Let's see if the code even runs. Ray index out of bounds. Yeah. And what happens if we put it in? Still doesn't work. I think we might have to break out the debugger on this one to try to figure out how to get in at that hidden component of swing, or maybe actually instantiate a dialog. I'm not sure, but that's what we're going to have to figure out next time. So thanks for watching, everybody, and I will catch you next time.